Dan RadioStyle. Hope everybody out there's having themselves a great day. Got a great, Neville nugget of some kind here. It's certainly my kind of way of spinning it. And it's a cool quote, and I actually saw it popped up on, happened to hop on Instagram or something stupid, which I seldom do, but I popped on there, and it was actually a quote that showed up, and I was like, oh, that's pretty cool, So did a little digging into it, not digging per se, but looked at it, got the full quote, because it was kind of cut off in a strange place. And I realized, wow, this is kind of, I don't know, it's a key ingredient, I think, and I think it's one of the things for a lot of us that are trying to manifest love or a specific person back in our life or anything like that. I think sometimes this can come into play, and I thought, well, let's give it a go, let's give it a whirl, and let's see if by discussing this quote and the way feelings and emotion and all, we're gonna do the quote here in just one sec, but to see if maybe we can shed some light on this concept. So Neville Goddard says, when I speak of feeling, I do not mean emotion, but acceptance of the fact that the desire is fulfilled. Feeling grateful, fulfilled, or thankful, it is easy to say, thank you. Isn't it wonderful? It is finished. Now, of course, anything Neville ever says seems like you got to learn some sort of new language and then kind of overlay it on top of this language, and then try to relate it back. But the first part, I think, is really key, and it's the one I'm going to focus on, and we can get into the second part, but I think it just kind of summarizes the first. When I speak of feeling, I do not mean emotion, but acceptance of the fact that that desire is fulfilled. Now, this brings up a couple thoughts to me. One, what does acceptance of something feel? And if you think about it for a second, I'm going to use a couple examples here, but if you think about it for a second, this is a feeling that's not pronounced. It's sort of a quiet feeling, if you will. I don't know if it's a feeling or if it's confidence or if it's a knowing. Maybe it's kind of more of that. I think it probably falls more into a knowing. I don't know. Kind of thinking out loud here on the fly, but say, for example, I put in an order for Amazon. I don't know. I think a lot of people across the world, it's a ridiculously large company, and I feel bad because there's a lot of mom and pop stores, and I love, by the way, the places where I get like my tires. There's a lot of places when I find a mom and pop of any kind, I am loyal till the day I die, and it's very, very true. But I do buy stuff on Amazon frequently because it's easy. And so one of the things about it that's kind of fantastic is you put in an order, you basically pay them right there electronically, and it shows up at your doorstep. Done. I don't question it. I don't doubt it. I don't have any doubts in my mind whatsoever that this thing is going to show up on the day it's supposed to arrive. Now, granted, if I'm excited about it, I might check the tracking and try to see if I can figure out when it might show up, right? When's the mailman going to bring it? They said they've got until, 10 a.m. to 8, or by 8 p.m., right? And it's like, well, yeah, but never shows up at 8. That's weird, right? So again, sometimes we can hope for that, but outside of that, I don't doubt it's going to show up. I don't question it. I don't. In fact, for those of you that have ever used Amazon, it's happened to me a couple times where something seemed like it took an abnormally long time, and you're like, what the hell? Something that should have showed up, and like you go and start looking for it. Like, it's rare that you ever question it. I put in the order. I know it's taken care of. What does that feel like? Like, think about it for a second. I put in my Amazon order. I know it's going to show up at my doorstep. How do I feel? You don't feel like anything, do you? You don't feel like anything. That's almost the point. A lot of us feel stuff when it comes to our manifestation, don't we? A little bit of nervousness, maybe, a little ambivalence, maybe questions, maybe I wonder if this works, am I crazy? Like all the questions that we ask ourselves, legitimate ones too. Oh yeah. If you're thinking you're crazy, this is a question you're going to have to come to terms with and at some point answer and be like, I don't know. It's like, call it coincidence, just seems to work out that way. Right? You can call it what you want. Call it potato. You can call it Frito or potato chip. I don't really care, frankly. It just seems to work out that way. So a lot of us, I think, try to feel what it would be like when we have this thing. And I don't think that's necessarily the feeling that Goddard's talking about. Again, people are going to jump out and they're going to jump down my throat on this probably. But hear me out for a second. I don't disagree with you. I'm not. But again, food for thought. It is sometimes good to have these discussions and think about this. When I speak of feeling, I do not mean emotion. I don't mean emotion. Gratitude is not really an emotion, but acceptance of the fact that the desire is fulfilled. Acceptance. That when I speak of feelings, feeling acceptance. What the hell is that? What does acceptance feel like? And back to my point that I was kind of going to. It's almost like it feels like nothing. It's almost like you just know you're getting that thing delivered to the door. That you know that the efforts you've put forward, the thoughts that you've had, the visualizations, the living in the end that you've performed is telling the universe, hey, this is the thing I want, make it so. And once you've put in your Amazon order, your universe order, you let it go. Now, I think a lot of us go day to day to day to day to day and constantly are like looking in the mailbox, even though it might have said it's not going to show up for 7 days, we might still go out and look in the mailbox every day, right? Wondering, maybe it shows up early, maybe it shows up in some way other than this. But whatever the case is, it shows up when it shows up. Sometimes, I hate to use an analogy that's very maybe specific to the Western world, but hopefully there's other parts of the country that have similar things. But, they say, I put in an order and it could take, 5 to 14 days, depending on some of it. Sometimes it's a third party and Amazon's like, this is their average track record. Who knows? You'll be lucky if you get it this century, but give it a go. And then there's others that basically is coming from the Amazon centers themselves, right? And they're like, nah, we can get it to you in 4.2315 days. Exactly. At your front doorstep. In fact, it is 12 paces from the curb to your front door. We know that. It's documented, right? Craziness. They've got it broken down probably into the footstep. I worked for UPS when I was younger. It's amazing how much technology and thought goes into creating these paths. Back to what I was supposed to be talking about. Feelings of gratitude, knowing it showed up, not necessarily understanding logistics of shipping, but knowing that it shows up almost doesn't feel like anything. I don't know. What does that feel like? You tell me. I'm asking you. Put it in the comments. Every time I order from Amazon, I feel great. I mean, yeah, it's cool that I get to get the thing that I'm after. I mean, if you're into gaining happiness from things, and that can be happy, and that certainly happens. Okay, cool. Then that's part of that. But it's the knowing that thing's showing up. If that thing provides you happiness, you're not going to experience that happiness until it's actually at your front door, right? So that's not really knowing that the wish is fulfilled per se, that the happiness is tied to having the object in your possession. So I don't think that's actually what it would feel like to know. I think what it would feel like to know is pretty much like, yeah, it's going to happen. Like, yeah, I'm going to hop in my car and I'm going to hit the little button. As long as my key's in my pocket, I'm going to hit the little button and it's going to start. That's it. I don't question it. I don't be like, is it going to work this time? Now, granted, I've had cars like that before where you're like, I don't know. Tap, tap, tap. Right? But no, my car, I mean, if it started being like that, I'd be worried. I'd take it down to that friend and family place I told you about, the Ma and Pa shop that fixes my car. But no. Again, I push the button, starting. It's of course, that's what it does. I don't question it. How does that feel? I don't feel anything at all. That's how you do. That's how it operates. That's how you create things in your life. You manifest this way. You focus on things, and then you don't worry about it, and then it just shows up. Not immediately. I don't know. It depends on the thing, too. Sometimes it's very quickly. Sometimes it takes longer. It is what it is. It's coming, right? So that's how I feel about it. Now, back to the last little portion of this that I think is germane, because there's a lot of people that will probably argue that feeling the love, like say for you're trying to get a person in your life, a specific person maybe, right? And you imagine like how you feel about them and that incredible love. I've probably talked about this before too. And again, I'm thinking about things, thinking out loud, having a fun discussion with everybody because again, we'll see. What do you guys think? But I feel love. I love them. And so I guess I think sometimes, all right, so when I manifest it, when I've got it, when I'm living in the end, the feeling that Neville's talking about, when I speak of feelings, I do not mean emotion. Well, it's not really emotion, but it's a love. I love them. Whatever, even though it's emotion. They think that acceptance of the wish fulfilled is them, the presence of them, the love of them. Like that's by acknowledging that feeling, I'm basically admitting it's here. But a lot of us question the process the whole way. He didn't text me. Why didn't this happen? Why have I gone 2 days without hearing from him? Like the whole way we're questioning the process. So you're what Neville's talking about for sure isn't happening. And then just loving him, you still love him. That's my point is even when you're thinking about being with him in a week and you're going to love him, and then being with him now, well, you still love him, right? Or thinking about him now, I should say. You still love him. Being with him in a week, you still love him. That hasn't really changed. Now, maybe, again, we're someone that by having something, even though I don't think it's good when an outside thing is what causes happiness, but whatever, there are lots of people that think this way. So maybe we've got it tied to our happiness, that when we have this, that we'll have happiness. So we tune in on that feeling. We make that the feeling that we're feeling. That's not really an emotion. It is. But that's not, doesn't matter. Shush, Dan. Don't tell me logical things. That's not what I'm asking right now. So I'm going to feel happiness because that's living in the end. That's living in the wish fulfilled. That's accepting this reality, right? Because we spin it ways to make it work in our minds. But when I think about that, I'm like, well, first off, for that to work, you have to actually already literally have the thing to be happy. But you're maybe of the ilk already where in order to be happy, you actually have to have the thing. So you're going to have a bit of a conundrum there. You may feel happiness for a moment, but then you're going to be like, but I'm not with them, and that really sucks, and I'm not happy, right? Well, there you go. That's not helping your situation, right? But ultimately, if you realize that that you're going to have that, and that happiness should already be there, basically, because you've already got it, or you love them already anyway, and it's fine. This is happening, and if you need that thing to be happy, though again, not healthy, but if you need that thing to be happy, well, it's coming. You're right. So you need to figure out a way to be happy just without it, at least in the meantime, because obviously it's not there this very second. But again, this will bring back a lot of the questioning and the process and everything else. You'll wonder, why didn't he text me back? You'll wonder, does he love me the way I love him? Like a lot of these things almost really don't matter. They're almost unimportant questions because if you understood that by doing the asking, by putting the effort, by imagining this situation where you're two together, and every once in a while you refresh that memory, or you live in the end every time they pop into your head, you're like, oh yeah, we're going to be dancing at that point. I can't wait to go there with her, right? Like it's just that constant, like reminding yourself, yeah, this reality is here. It's coming. It's before me. I can see it. I keep seeing little things that remind me of it. Like it's getting closer. So that's fine. It's on its way, right? Like whatever you've got to say in your mind, but the problem, I guess, is when you question the process, you don't see it that way. You see it like, well, I don't have it yet. Versus if you understand that the wish is already fulfilled, that you're getting what you want, you see everything is in the works. Like nothing just, like it doesn't just rain everything out. Like sometimes stuff happens here, stuff happens there, this happens here, this happens there. Pieces start to come together and all of a sudden, bam, there you go. New job, new girlfriend, new whatever. And sometimes there's related pieces that you maybe didn't think were connected that end up being a part of that. Maybe right before you get the relationship, you get this way better job, which suddenly enhanced your self-esteem. Well, that energy change within you was significant enough to now where this person's like, oh my God, look at this guy. He walks into the room and he lights it up. And you do, because your whole life's changed and you recently got a big, giant, fat raise. So a lot of things can be tied together on this. But ultimately, what I think Mr. Goddard is saying is the feeling of knowing that you've got what you're asking for. What does that feel like? Now, he does get into, and I think the last part is important, and I'll be cutting out right here shortly. It's that feelings of gratitude, that feeling of fulfillment, that feeling of thanks. Like, that's a very important part of this. I don't mean to play it down in the earlier part, because I think the early part's very important distinction. But it's extremely important to understand the feeling of thankfulness. Again, sometimes it's appreciative. Sometimes it's just, I know it's happening. I don't question it. Sometimes it's just that gratitude that I get to be with you. So there's that, I'm so grateful to be able to spend time with this soul, to be able to share time in this planet, in this life, with this individual. By no means did I mean to downplay gratitude. No. Gratitude is key. It's extremely important. It is very important. Feeling the gratitude, feeling this sense of understanding that it's already happened and been provided, and then grateful to all involved, all energies involved, be it source or whatever, and the people that you are involved in interacting with, and people that may open doors and help you. Thank you to all of you. This is awesome. Thanks. I'm so glad we could all get together and help each other out on this adventure. It's a gratitude. It's a thankfulness. And you don't question whether what I just did when I imagined and I'm living from the end, I don't question that. I understand that's taken care of. The wish is fulfilled there. No worries. Right? For whatever part of the monkey brain that has to satisfy. And then the other component is that feeling of gratitude. That joyous, I know I've got this, and I'm so happy that this was provided, that this occurred. Thank you. Like I know, and I'm thankful in advance because I know what's going to happen. It's kind of like when you ask someone at work, right? And you're like, hey, I'm going to ask you to do something, and just because I know our relationship in work, this is like in my mind, right? This is like before I start typing the email, and like I know in my mind that we have a great relationship. If you ask me to do something, I'll do it. If I ask you to do something, no questions. Never been questioned, never was. We're here to help each other, and it's oftentimes we can help each other. So there's that, hey, thanks in advance. I know, I'm sorry that you're going to be a little maybe bound up, but I really need this for something. If you could just get me some data or whatever, get me access to something, whatever. And you put that thank you in advance. And I am grateful in advance. That feeling is really the one I think that you take with you. It's that knowing. And it's understanding that this, by putting forth the efforts and then getting out of our own way, and again, because so many of us question it along the way, and that's part of that feeling of acceptance too. It's more than just feeling grateful. Yeah, but if you don't really fully get what the first part of the quote is saying, I don't mean emotion, I don't mean any of that. Thankful is really tied kind of to an emotion. It's more that acceptance, that this is so. That's a feeling unto itself, and it's almost an absence of feelings, almost. And then coupled with a true thankfulness, a true gratitude. When you're coming at it from that standpoint, I think it becomes a very powerful form of being. We always talk about what you think, what you say, and what you do as forms of manifesting. What you're doing being the strongest. Well, when you're being something, that's your doing. You're being it. Hopefully, this is something that kind of helps break down these components, this manifesting, the way that the processes work, the way the techniques are designed, what Goddard's talking about in this one tiny quote that, good Lord, you could probably write an entire book on. Hopefully this helps. Appreciate you guys. Stay on radio style.